Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video. If you're new here, my name is Emeka. I currently work for the world's biggest investment bank, and in this video I'm going to go over how a proper CV should look and how it should be structured. Now let's start off with the overall formatting. The most important thing here is your CV has to be one page. Honestly, no manager is going to read a two-page CV, and if you're applying for an analyst position, there's no way you could have done 2 pages worth of relevant work. So make sure your CV is one page. That's the first step. Another thing you need to ensure is the overall writing in your CV is very legible, and I know it has to be one page and you feel like you have a lot of information to put in, but in your CV, the writing should not be less than a font size of 10. Like, it shouldn't be less than a font size of 10. If it's any less, I'm telling you right now, obviously I'm an analyst, so I've not had the chance to reject any CVs, but I can tell you for a fact, when my manager looks at a CV, if it's too small, if it's not legible, he's not going to read it because he has a lot of CVs to go through and he can't spend time trying to decipher what exact word it is. So make sure your CV is a font size at least 10 and make sure it's one page. Now in terms of the font style, I know Microsoft Word has like 1,000 font styles, but honestly, pick the most common one. Most banks would like for you to use Arial or Calibri or Times New Roman. Please don't try and be fancy. Just pick a normal font style, use it. No one really cares if you pick some fancy French or Italian cursive writing. If it's not legible, you do yourself a disservice. This is another important trick in terms of formatting. Make sure that each sentence literally finishes at the right hand side of the margin. So more or less, you want the whole line filled up, and what this does is it gives your CV a fuller look, and in the hiring manager's mind or the recruiter, even if it might not be subconscious, they're thinking this guy's done a lot. But if your bullet points on your CV literally stop at half the page, what's that other space going to do? It just makes your CV look empty. So a good trick is make sure your CV, when you're describing a role, it literally fills just one line, and then the next bullet point fills the next line. Another thing that most people already know to do is to make sure that any important thing you want to highlight is in bold. So for example, the name of the last company you work for should be in bold. The dates where you work there should be in bold. What your job role is should be in bold. Your university you went to should be in bold. The grades you have should be in bold. You want to bold those things that actually make a difference. Now let's go on to the sections. What sections should you have on your CV? If you're applying for first year analyst position, your sections should be your experience first, your education, and then skills and interests. Those are the only 3 sections you have. Let's go into education first because this is the shortest part. Your education should literally be 4 lines, 5 lines. Put what your A levels are, the school you went to, what the grades were. That's all. That should literally be 2 lines. I went to X school 2016 to 2020. I did math, psychology, economics, A star, A star, A star. That's literally it. It should be 2 lines for your A levels. Now go on to university. This is where it can get a bit techie and might differ for people. If you're studying a subject such as finance, accounts, and economics, then the modules more or less relate to banking. Highlight those modules where you've performed extremely well and make sure they're relevant to banking. So just because you perform well on a skills or some employability module doesn't mean you should put it. Put your macroeconomic score, your banking score, put relevant modules there. And also, if you've done any coursework, for example, let's say you were doing a fixed income module, and during that time, your coursework was to use R or Python to model bond future prices. Make sure you highlight that as relevant coursework and put that there in bold. And any other coursework you think that can enhance your CV, make sure it's put there, and also put in bold Python, bond futures, because that way, once someone looks at your CV, at that point, the person's already making up their mind about you, which is a good thing to do. And overall, the university part of your education should be more or less, I went to University of Manchester, put the dates there, same line, then put what you're studying, BSc Finance, put your current or predicted grade, and then use maybe just 1 line or 2 lines to highlight relevant modules and just 1 line to highlight relevant coursework. Now let's go on to the professional section. This is the make or break section. This is where if you're gonna get the role, it all comes down to. So please pay a lot of attention. And before I go into that, if you're enjoying this video so far, please drop a comment and give the video a thumbs up. Thank you. The first thing you have to do before you actually write out your experience is to look at the job description. If you're applying for an asset management role, what you're gonna put in your experience or how you describe the role you did will be different than if it's a sales and trading role, IBD role, quantitative risk role. All of this depends on what the job is. Now that you've looked at the job description, what should you do next? You want to take keywords from that job description. Let's say you're applying for a fixed income trading role. What you want to ensure is on your CV, there's some mention of fixed income or fixed income products. So for example, it could be when you work at Goldman Sachs during a summer internship, you examined or analyzed bond future prices. So that's a fixed income instrument, a bond. That's on your CV. I also want to make sure that every verb starts off the sentence and is in past tense, and this is consistent throughout the whole CV. Listen carefully, let me tell you a big trick. the first 2 lines under a specific job should be the most impactful things you did during that job. If, for example, when you're working at Goldman Sachs, you did some internship in the ECM department, don't put networking in the first line or talking to VPs, EDs, or listening to a presentation by David Solomon. The first 2 lines should be what is going to sell you to the person looking at your CV, because more times than not, they only have time to look at the first 2 lines of a specific job. So make sure those are the most impactful things you have done during that job. And for every role you describe, make sure you put the impact. So for example, I examined, I assessed, whatever. This led to a 2% increase in ROE, or this led to a 5 billion reduction in cost. On your whole CV, make sure everything is quantified. Listen, this is a finance job you're applying for, a banking job. We speak numbers. Make sure you're able to quantify every single thing on your CV, because that makes it more tangible. Now let's go on to skills and interest. This is a very overlooked section because most people just put whatever. I play football, I play 5-a-side. I've seen horrible skills and interests. So let me tell you what you should do. In terms of skills and interests, the first thing after that title should be literally what softwares you can use. Honestly, if you're applying for a banking job now, for any job, investment bank, hedge fund, make sure you're able to use intermediate Excel at least. Like having just beginner Excel would not cut it anymore. And if also you have experience using R, Python, Java, make sure you highlight that very well. Or also you have any experience using any sort of data analytics package such as Tableau, Ultrix, SPSS, Stata. Honestly, put all of that there and put what level you are: beginner, intermediate, advanced. That's the first line. The next line should be interest. Now, for most people, they just put I play 5-a-side, I play the piano. You need to make your interest very captivating. So what did I put on my CV? Of course, I put I'm a competitive natural bodybuilder, and for you, that might not be the case. So what can you put if you just play football? You have to somehow make your interest sound unique, because if you just put I play football, I mean, no one knows if that's true, number one, and from your CV, they can't confirm that. So there's no point actually just saying I play football. Maybe you can put I play football, avid Arsenal supporter since 2002, or love Arsenal, hate United. So something very catchy that ignites some sort of emotion from the reader, either good or bad. Now, once you've done all this, something you need to ensure 100% is there's literally zero, I don't mean one, zero spelling mistakes in your CV. Like if there's one spelling mistake, then I can guarantee you that your CV is not going to go through to the next round. Like 100%. There has to be zero spelling mistakes on your CV. And honestly, once you do the first draft of your CV, send it to your friend or someone in the career service to look at. Make sure they look at it properly, get them to send it back to you, make corrections, and make sure you don't spend endless amount of time trying to perfect your CV. If your CV is getting you interviews, then you know for sure you're doing something right. And if it's not, make sure you use the tips I've covered in this video to make your CV better. And thanks for watching.